DUVVURI, Director, Parvatkan Brahmaya Siddhartha College of Arts and Science, honored standing before you to invite the guests onto the dais. Good morning and warm wishes. My sincere thanks to Academy for giving this privilege on this occasion. 50 years is not just a measure of 10 lustrons, but a testament to vision, perseverance, and collective spirit. The seeds are sown by our founders, nurtured by generations of teachers, and blossomed through the achievements of countless students. Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education has stood as a lodestar of knowledge, shaping minds, inspiring hearts, while adapting to the changing tides of education and society. Excellence, innovation, and service continue to define the journey of the Academy. The intransigence of the Academy for quality remains the legacy and renews the commitment to carry forward the flame of learning into the next 50 years and even beyond. The recent milestone for the Academy is Siddhartha Academy of Higher Education, a deemed to be university, the status given by UGC to one of our institutions, VR Siddhartha Engineering College. We are here to celebrate the Golden Jubilee year of Siddhartha Academy of General and Technical Education, which has 18 premier institutions in and around Vijayawada, spanning across the domains like medicine, law, engineering, pharmacy, education, arts and science, secondary and primary school education, and even the kindergarten. The first offspring of the Academy is Siddhartha College of Arts and Science, which was later rechristened as Parvatkan Brahmaya Siddhartha College of Arts and Science by then Honorable Chief Minister Sri N.T. Ramarao Garu. Initially, and both junior and degree colleges were run as a single unit, but later got separated as two entities. Four offsprings of Academy, Parvatkan Brahmaya Siddhartha College of Arts and Science, Parvatkan Brahmaya Siddhartha Junior College of Arts and Science, Additionally, Gopalakrishna and Sugarcane Growers Siddhartha Junior College of Arts and Science, and additionally Gopalakrishna and Sugarcane Growers Siddhartha Degree of College of Arts and Science are celebrating Golden Jubilee year. The Academy sets its goals, reaching the unreached, rooted to the tradition and growing in excellence. On this occasion, I invite Professor Rajeshi Jampala onto the dais to receive the guests. I humbly request Sri K.V. Chaudhary Garu, Chancellor, Siddhartha Academy of Higher Education, to preside over the chair as President of the function. As today we are celebrating the Golden Jubilee year, I gracefully request the resource person of the invited talk, Sri Dr.DUVVURI SUBBARAO Garu, former Governor, Reserve Bank of India, to adorn the chair, embellishing the gathering with his impactful lecture on the topic Leadership Lessons I Learned Hard Way, based on the book he authored. I humbly hand over the mic to Sri K.V. Chaudhary Garu to preside over the function to carry the further proceedings. I request Malineni Rajay Garu, President of the function. Please, sir, Please, sir. I request Paladu Lakshman Rao garu, Secretary of the Academy. Sir, please come on to the dais. Please, all of you stand up for the prayer song.
प्रणमाम्यहं श्रीगौरीसुतं फणितल्पवासुदेव वतं सततं प्रणमाम्यहं श्रीगौरीसुतं गणनाथममर वृन्दसेवितं गणनाथममरवृन्दसेवितं फणिहारभूषितं मुनिवरवन्दितं प्रणमाम्यहं श्रीगौरीसुतं धृतचारुमोदकं गजमुखं श्रुतकर अमितगर्वभञ्जकं नतलोक सन्तोषदायकं श्रुतभक्तपालकं सिद्धिविनायकं प्रणमाम्यहं श्रीगौरीसुतं प्रणितल्पवासुदेव भक्तं सततं प्रणमाम्यहं श्रीगौरीसुतं
Thank you.
We hand over the proceedings to our president. I request our Dr. J. Srilata, head of the Department of P.V. Siddhartha College of Arts and Science, to formally introduce Sri K.V. Chaudhary garu.
It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce K.V. Chaudhary garu, the Chancellor of Siddhartha Academy of Higher Education. Sri Chaudhary garu was born on 10th October 1954 in Krishna district. He is an eminent figure in Indian public administration and corporate governance. He completed his graduation from Loyola College, Chennai, and further pursued a post-graduation in mathematics from Indian Institute of Technology, Chennai. Beginning his career as a probationary officer in Andhra Bank, Sri Chaudhary garu later joined the Indian Revenue Service in 1978. His remarkable career in public service led him to become the chairman of Central Board of Direct Taxes in 2014. In 2015, he was appointed as the Central Vigilance Commissioner of India, where he played a pivotal role in promoting transparency and accountability in government operations. After post-retirement, Sri Chaudhary garu transitioned to the corporate sector, where he holds directorship positions in several prominent companies, including Reliance Industries, Divi's Laboratories, Tata Motors, Reliance Jio, My Home Industries, Anantraj Limited. He is also actively involved with the GMR Varalakshmi Foundation and Genomi Foundation. Sri Chaudhary garu is a member of the Executive Committee of the International Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies and the Advisory Board of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He serves on various audit and remuneration committees across multiple companies, contributing his vast experience in financial oversight and corporate governance. In addition to his corporate responsibilities, Shri Chaudhary Garu is a non-executive independent trustee of the Akshay Patra Foundation, a charitable trust dedicated to elevating hunger and promoting education. He also serves as the chairman of the Stakeholders Relationship Committee at Reliance Industries Limited. Shri K.V. Chaudhary Garu's extensive career reflects his dedication to both public service and corporate leadership, making him a valuable asset in his role as the Honorable Chancellor. We are happy to have you here in this P.V. Siddhartha College. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
One more announcement, please. And we are fortunate to have IAS duo, Sri Duvvuri Subbarao Garu and Mrs. Urmila Raghavan Garu. So, may I invite you, Madam Srimati Urmila Raghavan Garu, IAS, and who worked as a joint collector of combined Krishna district and municipal commissioner of Vijayawada, onto the dais, enthralling the students and with your message.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So now I request our President of the function and Chancellor of Siddhartha Academy of Higher Education, Sri K.V. Chaudhary Garu, to address.
Asmadgurubhyo Namaha. Distinguished invitee, the most eminent Sri SUBBARAO, Srimati Urmila Garu, Sri Rajay Garu, Sri Lakshmanrao Garu, other members of the Siddhartha Academy, distinguished members of the civil society, members of the media, dear students. I actually should be sitting there when Rajesh Garu told me that they are inviting SUBBARAO for a lecture or a speech or a motivational talk to the students. I spontaneously told him I also want to attend. I told him I want to attend. But I didn't know that he will fasten me with this responsibility to chair or preside over the function. Anyway, I am thankful to him. I have seen SUBBARAO Garu rather being a distant Ekalavya Sishya to him, and I can offer my Guru Dakshina him today because earlier I have not met him in such close quarters. In 75, when I completed my MSc in Mathematics from IIT Chennai and wanted to take the civil services examination, the first name that came to me was Mr. SUBBARAO Garu, who just about a couple of years ago, 72, topped the civil services examination, and the first and the probably till now the only Andhra person to top the civil services exam. In spite of a little bit of a clout in the bureaucracy through my father-in-law and relatives, somehow I did not get an opportunity to meet him. But I could meet Sujata Rao Garu, who was a good friend of SUBBARAO Garu, who guided me as to how to go about this examination. Thereon, I have been observing and following his career path. What I want you people to notice is, the multifaceted capabilities, multifaceted interests Dr. Subbarao Garu has, which you need to notice and cultivate. Most people talk about, I want to do engineering, as if you are wedded to engineering for life. Somebody says, I want to do chartered accountancy. Doing chartered accountancy is not the end of life. Doing engineering is not end of life. Look at Subbarao Garu's career. He started with physics. He did his physics in IIT Kharagpur, and then went on to do his post-graduation in physics. From there, jumped on to the civil service. He took an interest in economics, went and studied economics. Somebody who has done his IAS, already got 3 letters, he got a chip on his shoulder, he is assured of good postings and then a decent pension. Most 99% of the people relax after that. But he went on to do his economics. He went on to do his further studies in multiple universities, including Massachusetts Institute. Then Andhra University conferred on him the degree. Of course, there is a session separately on introducing him. My purpose is not to cut down that. My purpose is to tell you young students to see how and what kind of a multidimensional knowledge, multidimensional approach, multidimensional functioning takes people to places. Then after he joined the service, again, he didn't stick to one field from district collector, DM, whatever they call, onwards to State Financial Corporation, IDC, etc. Then he went to the World Bank, then he was the Secretary Finance, the most coveted post in Government of India. Then he became the Governor Reserve Bank and post Governor Reserve Bank. He is on the boards of a number of foreign universities and teaching. So I want to take a leaf from his journey and from his qualifications and interests so that you all develop as multi-dimensional persons, not as a simple commerce student or a science student, etc. Okay, that's the reason why I thought I should listen to him. I have heard him, I am hearing him for the second time. Morning I reminded him an occasion when I haven't met him, but I have closely heard him when he was a witness before the Joint Parliamentary Committee, assisting them on the 2G issue. I had the privilege of listening to him, a fiery board comprising of stalwarts, Gurdas Dasgupta and the one who passed away recently, the CPM leader, so Yechuri Sitaram, Gurdas Dasgupta, so many people. And it was a very, very fiery event. I literally had tears in my eyes the way in which they were going. Not realizing that my then secretary would ask me to address that same committee instead of his leading to it. At 2 o'clock when Revenue Department was called to make its submission, my then secretary said, I am so and so, this is so and so, he will take you through the session, and it came unannounced. But God's grace, Mata Saraswati's grace, I had a very fair sail through, so much so that fiery committee made a compliment that this is one of the best presentations we have heard. Anyway, be that as it may, I came all the way to listen to him. So I don't want to stand between you and him. And one more very important thing I want to tell you is, he has not come here to speak to you about economic theories. He is capable of speaking to much, much evolved audiences, PhDs, central bank governors, all of them put together, he can speak to them as to who moved the interest or what happens when a particular decision is taken to the finance market. He is going to talk to you about the essence of how and what he learned in the life through the hard way. This is very few people will give this gift. I thought people reserve this gift of giving the essence of how they came up to or how they evolved themselves to the most chosen people. If I were to give it, I would really select who is to receive that, because I don't want that to go waste. It is not a simple speech of a political or other general speech. He has chosen the Siddhartha students to give that message. I won't call it a speech, I will call it a message. Each one of you must listen every word as if it is a part of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters and 700 slokas, but then the sage has summed it up in one sloka at the end. Nobody is going to sum up here. You need to listen. I don't know how many of you are carrying a paper and a pen. Please pull it out. Do make notes. It is the best lecture you have heard and you will have ever hear in your life. So I thank SUBBARAO Garu. This is not a Thanksgiving session, but I don't get a second opportunity. So for agreeing to bless our children, please do listen to me carefully. I came all the way at the age of 71 with so much of experience behind me. With all humility I say, I just came to listen to you. So you must remember what kind of a gift you have got, and thanks to Ramesh Garu and Siddharth Academy. Thank you very much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and I request all of you to give a big hand to welcome Sri SUBBARAO Garu for this lecture guest. I would now request Sri Rajesh Jampala Garu to set the context and introduce our chief guest. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Sri K.V. Chaudhary Garu has introduced already the luminary on the stage, Sri DUVVURI. Thank you, sir, for making my job less arduous. I read the profile of Sri DUVVURI. It is almost like understanding the economic reforms of this country. I think those who are sitting in the first rows will understand the importance of 1991, which is a watershed year, under the leadership of Manmohan Singh and P.V. Narasimha Rao Garu. The person behind the work, hard work, is done by DUVVURI as a support. Because of this 1991 economic reforms, India's growth rate has achieved to 7%, 8%. Once upon a time it touched almost expecting to go for double digit. But before that it is only 4%. We used to call it as a Hindu growth rate. So in this context, the youngsters should understand and emulate such personalities. We have two stalwarts. In fact, K.V. Chaudhary is also an IRS officer. He is sitting on the boards of several important companies and is a master in corporate governance. It's a very tough job. As Chief Vigilance Commissioner of the country, you try to understand how difficult it is unless you are so prudent, unless you are having integrity. A government never chooses any Tom, Dicky and Harry to that particular post. So it is a treat to our ears and eyes. Let me introduce formally Sri DUVVURI. So he was from Elur. He was born in 1949 and he had his schooling from Korakonda. I think most of his Korakonda batchmates are here. So when I just spoke to them, they said we will come and attend. That shows the bonding of the school. That school is known for discipline and academic excellence. So in any career, schools and colleges makes all the difference. Then he later moved to IIT Kanpur. He did his BSc in physics. Then he did his master's in physics from the same Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. Then as Chaudhary has introduced him, he later on did his MA Economics from Ohio State University, USA. So if you want to understand economics, you should study physics. That is the relevance of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach we are now following. So students should understand, don't stop learning. At the same time, after that, he completed his PhD in my alma mater, that is Andhra University. He submitted his thesis on physical reforms at subnational level. So because of this background, he was chosen to the coveted post of Reserve Bank of India's governor. And he is a 1972 IAS batch, and he chosen Andhra Pradesh naturally as his cadre. He has held many positions at the district, state and central level. If I am not wrong, he started his career from Parvatipuram, the border town of Andhra Orissa, as a sub-collector. Then later on, he moved to the central service, and he has had many key roles, as it was already explained. He is a lead economist in the World Bank of Washington, D.C. for the years 1999 to 2004. He's having a lot of international exposure. And he's also secretary to the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, 2005 to 2007, under the leadership of Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh, sorry. The Finance Secretary of the Government of India from 2007 to 2008. So it's a quoted post. He oversaw the budgetary operations and fiscal policy just before the global crisis. Actually, fortunately or unfortunately, 2008 year, most probably will be knowing, world has entered into a recession. In fact, it started with USA. In 2008, the subprime lending crisis in USA has led several bank closures. Every other day, one or two banks were closed in USA. But luckily, India is in safe hands because of Dr. SUBBARAO. They are the tremendous years for being a central bank governor for any person. But he has done that particular job with a lot of ease and care and dedication. So hats off to you, sir, for making us at least stable in those periods. Post RBI, he is visiting universities, the Jackson Institute of Global Affairs, Yale University, National University of Singapore, a very famous universities, then University of Pennsylvania, another Ivy League school, and he's also recently visiting several US universities as a visiting professor. Today is also we are fortunate because he is coming to Siddhartha Academy and addressing youngsters like you. As I am telling you, it is once in a lifetime opportunity for all of us. He has published two important books. One is Who Moved My Interest Rates? Probably you might have taken the clue from Who Moved My Cheese? From Jockman. Yes. So it's a very fable story. So Who Moved My Interest Rates is nothing but the compendium of 2008 to 13. His dilemmas and his activities as a Reserve Bank governor. Every management student, economics student must read these books. Then he wrote recently, Just a Mercenary. Simply as a mercenary, he has addressed his work. You know the meaning of mercenary. That means based on the context, based on the situation, based on the role clarity he has approached his job. I read somewhere, it's not about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process. So I understood Dr. SUBBARAO as a person given as economic reforms, but is a reformed person. So with this, I humbly present Sri SUBBARAO to you. Before that, Madam Srimati Urmila Raghavan Garu, popularly known as Urmila SUBBARAO, she is the People's Commissioner of Vijayawada. She is a very rightful officer, stood for the benefits of the poor and downtrodden. Under her name, there was a colony in Vijayawada, Urmila Nagar. You can understand, on the name of one officer, one area was dedicated. That shows her commitment to the profession. I think they are a very happy couple. SUBBARAO is also having a lot of sense of humor. I think probably that might made Urmila to like SUBBARAO. So thanks, madam, for coming. Now I humbly present SUBBARAO to the audience.
Chancellor Dr.DUVVURI garu, Lakshmanrao garu, who I'm told is the moving force behind the Siddhartha institutions. Rajay garu, my long-time associate with the president of the Siddhartha Academy, Principal Ramesh garu, and most importantly, Dean Rajesh garu, and of course, faculty, staff, and students of the Siddhartha group of institutions. It's wonderful to be here this morning. We'll be talking on the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of the Siddhartha Academy. First of all, I'm flattered by all the introduction by Chancellor Dr. Garu and Dean Rajesh Garu. You know, whenever I go to meetings like this, people say very nice things about me. Just as Dave said, and I feel very happy that they say nice things about me. I'm flattered. But whenever people say such nice things, I wish my parents were sitting here. They know more. But if my parents were sitting here, my father would have been proud of all that's been said about me. My mother should have believed all that. So, thank you for a very kind introduction. I chose to speak today about the leadership lessons I learned the hard way. The reason is this, that I left the Reserve Bank of India in September 2013, over 12 years ago. In these 12 years, the world has moved on, India has moved on, Siddhartha institutions have moved on, all of you have moved on, but I remain where I was. I'm still in 2013. So when people invite me to speak, I don't know what to say. I still wonder whether I'm still relevant. So I tell them stories. So I'm going to tell you some stories. Let me start with one story. This is the story of my IAS interview. More than 50 years ago, when I qualified in the written exam at the UPSC for the IAS interview, I was still studying in IIT Kanpur at that time. My interview was in the last week of February, the first slot in the morning at 9 o'clock. So I took an overnight train from Kanpur to Delhi. I arrived in Delhi at 5 o'clock. I went to my friend's house in Moti Park, changed, showered, pressed my new suit, wore that. My friend's mother gave me breakfast. I was ready by 7:45. My interview was at 9. Those days you could get to UPSC in 15 to 20 minutes. So my father, who was here, he kept writing me letters saying that when you go to UPSC, take a taxi. All the time, I was quite familiar with Delhi. I always used to travel in a bus. But my father was concerned that I must arrive in UPSC unruffled, neat and clean and tidy. So, for the first time in my life, I was wearing a suit. For the first time in my life, I was sitting in a taxi. Went to UPSC. I was there in good time, 8:40, 8:45. The staff checked my papers, made me sit down in the ante room. By about 9:05 or 9:10, I was in front of the committee. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. All around. The chairman said, "Are you still at IIT Kanpur?" "Yes, sir." "So when did you come?" "I came this morning, sir. I took an overnight train." "When do you finish at IIT?" "I'll finish in May, sir." "So you'll be in good time if you qualify." "Yes, sir." Then he looked at another member, and the member asked me with a very stern face, "Do you read newspapers, Mr. Subbarao?" "Yes, sir." "Which one?" "The Statesman, sir." "Okay, tell me, what is the headline in today's Statesman?" I was flustered. I had not seen that morning's newspaper. And the first question in the interview, I didn't know what to say. So the chairman came to my rescue and said, "Look, this is still dark and dreary winter morning. He came by a train, is getting ready for the interview. He wouldn't have had time to see the newspaper. I'm sure you've not seen this morning's newspaper." So the member said, "Okay, did you see yesterday's paper?" "Yes, sir." "So tell me, what was the picture on the front page of the Statesman?" So it's a picture of Muslims celebrating Muharram. Celebrating? Is Muharram a festival to celebrate? Flustered, for a second time in a minute, I was flustered. This interview by which I set so much store. And then he said, "I thought you would know this. Muharram is not a festival, it's a day of mourning. The day when Muslims mourn the death of the Prophet's grandson, his martyrdom." Then he said, "Look, you've been staying in Kanpur. I thought you would know this. Kanpur has a predominantly Muslim population. At any other time, I would have been defensive. No, IIT campus is very far away. We don't get to interact with the city life, etc." But I was so tongue-tied, so scared, so flustered, so floundered that I couldn't open my mouth. Thank God for that. Then he said, "Okay, tell me, which sect of Muslims observes Muharram?" And the chairman said he doesn't even know what Muharram is. Why do you ask him all this? So in the first 3 minutes of my interview, that interview completely dissolved. I've said so much stuff. If I said finished, the members, the committee will go through the motions of interviewing me for 10-15 minutes and send me away. But in the event, the interview went on for about 35 to 40 minutes. We discussed a lot of things. We discussed about Mrs. Gandhi was the Prime Minister at that time, her style of functioning. We talked about President Nixon's China visit and the implications of that. We talked about the differences between IIT Kharagpur and IIT Kanpur. We talked about the difference in farming in AP and Punjab, because I come from West Godavari. West Godavari is a famous farming district, used to be at that time. So they said, what's the difference in farming between AP and Punjab? We talked about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in physics, and we talked about existentialism. The reason I'm telling you is that the quality of the interview went up from that moment. At 35 minutes, I knew I'd done well. I went on to score the second highest marks in the interview that year. But the lesson I learned from that, the lesson I learned from that is that don't be discouraged by early setbacks. Life is, life and career are a long deal. I'm extrapolating from a 40-minute experience, but that's the first lesson I learned in my career, that setbacks are common. What is important for success in life is to get up from setbacks, manage those setbacks and move on. The second lesson, I want to talk about is whatever you have to do, do it with passion. Read this carefully. whatever you have to do, do it with passion. This is quite different from what you normally learn. You know, if you go to a leadership seminar, if you read a self-help book like Jonathan Livingston Seagull or The Alchemist, your teachers tell you, your parents tell you that the secret to success in life is to discover your passion and pursue it. So if your passion is to be a cricketer, you must pursue cricket. If your passion is to be a nuclear scientist, you must study science. So that is what is the common wisdom, which is the secret to success in life is to discover your passion and pursue it. That does not accord with my experience. My experience has been quite different. What my experience has taught me is that the secret to success in life is not to discover your passion and pursue it. The secret to success in life is to do whatever you're enjoying to do it with passion. I'll tell you a story. In mid-1980s, we had our Chief Minister NTR. NTR appointed me as officer on special duty for Arak bottle. Now, most of you old enough, not very many old enough, know that NTR was not only a teetotaler, he had a moral contempt for people who drank. And when he first became Chief Minister, he was appalled by thousands of people who were dying because of drinking adulterated liquor. Thousands of households which were crumbling into poverty because of addiction to drinking. So he wanted to impose prohibition. I'm talking about his first term as Chief Minister. Then the finance department people said, no, so you can't do prohibition because it gets us a lot of revenue. So if we impose prohibition, we'll have no revenue, we'll have no money for your rice at rupees 2 kg, etc., etc. That just scared him. So NTR said, okay, if I can't, I'm talking about his first term, okay, he imposed total prohibition in his second term. I'm talking about his first term. So NTR said, if I can't impose total prohibition, at least I'm going to make sure that people in my state do not drink adulterated liquor. So the government decided that they're going to set up Arak bottling plants in every district of the state. There used to be 23 districts in the combined state of Andhra Pradesh at that time. An Arak bottling plant in every district, and they appointed me as the officer on special duty for establishing those 23 Arak bottling plants in each district of the state. When I got the posting order, I was distraught, angry, annoyed, frustrated. Why me? There are 250 IAS officers in the state, many of them very well known, with a reputation for establishing projects like this. Why did they pick on me? You know, and I felt humiliated. Some of you might want to appear for civil services. Every year, civil service results come out, and then the toppers are interviewed, right? You see the interviews of toppers in the civil service. Every topper says, why do you want to join the IAS? I want to join the IAS and change the world. Is this the way I'm going to change the world? Bottle liquor and change the world? And you know, if you go to a family function, a wedding, then people say, what are you doing? I'm bottling liquor. How embarrassing it is to say. And it could not be done. There was no way. NTR just gave me 9 months to complete 23 bottling projects in each district of the state. There was no way it could be done in 9 months. So I was so angry, so frustrated, so flustered, so annoyed, so distraught, that I just went home and brooded for 3 days. Why did this fate befall me? Then 3 days later, one Monday morning, I got up and said, okay, if this is what I have to do, this is what I will do. And it is better to try and fail rather than not try and fail. So I picked up a team, managed a group, and then 9 months we worked day and night like a war situation. 3 days before the D-Day, we had 23 Arak bottling plants in each of the 23 districts of the state, fully built, fully equipped, fully staffed, all functions in place, ready to go. Even today, 40 years later, as the people said I was finance secretary, I was governor, RBI, I went to the World Bank. But even today, 40 years later, I look upon that assignment as one of the most enjoyable, one of the biggest learning opportunities, most fulfilling career of mine. I learned several things from that. The first thing I learned is that don't be vain. All of us want to do sexy things, all of us want to do glamorous things. But in life, you have to do a lot of ordinary things. So don't be vain that you're meant for bigger things. You've got to do smaller things in order to get to do bigger things. The second lesson I learned is don't fear failure. Failure is a learning opportunity. The raw truth is failure is part of life. It's how we grow, how we learn, how we become better. How many of you use Google Maps? Raise your hand. Google Maps? Right. What does Google Map do? If you take a wrong turn, it recalculates, right? So that's what you should do. When you made a wrong step, when you had a setback, be like Google Map. Recalculate and get on the right path. And the third thing I learned is, of course, this, that whatever you have to do it with passion. So I'm telling you stories, right? So let me continue. I want to tell you the story about keep your ear close to the ground. And I want to tell you, young students, you're going to graduate of the Siddhartha Academy, Siddhartha colleges. You're going to move on in life, choose careers, move on in careers. The important thing, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, is to keep your ear close to the ground. And I'll tell you a story. When I was appointed governor of the Reserve Bank of India in 2008, I went to call on Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to thank him for choosing me to become the governor. I've known Dr. Manmohan Singh. I worked with him earlier in 1991 when he was finance minister. I was a mid-level officer in the Ministry of Finance. Later, when he was Prime Minister, I was Finance Secretary, so he'd known me. So I went to his office. There were just two of us, 11 o'clock in the morning, the Prime Minister's office in the South Block. And then I told him, thank you very much, sir, for appointing me as the governor. And he said, yeah, you're, I've seen you, I've known you, and we've chosen you, especially the usual conversation. And then we talked about the macroeconomic situation. We talked about the differences in working in the government and differences in working in the RBI. We also talked about living in Delhi and living in Mumbai, the differences. And then after about 10 minutes, I asked Dr. Manmohan Singh, sir, do you have any advice to give me? Dr. Manmohan Singh himself was governor of the RBI in the early 1980s. So I said, sir, you were governor of RBI, do you have any advice to give me? Dr. Manmohan Singh is a very humble person. So with a very faint smile on his face, he said that, Subbarao, what advice can I give you? You've been in the IAS, you know the country, you know the state, you know the government, you know the RBI. I'm sure you'll do very well. Do what you think is the best for the economy. I'm sure you'll do well. So after about another 5 minutes, I got up to take leave of him. And as I got up, a humble man, he got up from his chair, just two of us in the office, and he walked around the table to escort me to the door. And when at the door, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, Subba, you asked for my advice. I want to give you one piece of advice, which is whatever you're doing, remember, keep your ear close to the ground, do what you think is the best for the vast majority of the people. The Reserve Bank is a great institution, but Reserve Bank is like a tunnel. Once you go to the RBI, you get so immersed in numbers, inflation rate, interest rate, exchange rate, foreign exchange reserves, money supply, that you will forget that there are real people behind you. So remember that there are people behind every decision you make. So I listened to him, thanked him, I walked out. Within 15 seconds of leaving the PM's office, the advice went out of my head. Because I was so preoccupied with so many other things at that time, moving from Delhi to Mumbai and all that, the advice went out of my head. But later on, after I started working in the RBI, after about 6 months, the purport of the Prime Minister's advice hit me. The reason is that the primary responsibility of the Reserve Bank of India, indeed of any central bank, is to maintain price stability. Price stability means low and steady inflation. Low and steady inflation is important for a number of reasons. I don't want to give you an economics class. Your faculty will give you those lessons. But one important reason why low and steady inflation is important is because inflation is a regressive tax. A regressive tax means it hurts poor people more than it hurts well-off people. You know, the shirt, if it cost me 2,000 rupees last month, now next time I go to buy a shirt and it cost me 2,200 rupees, I wouldn't even notice it went up by 10% at my level of income. I wouldn't notice that 10% increase in the cost of the shirt. But poor people, they notice if the price of the bus ticket goes up from 25 to 27 rupees. If the price of rice goes from 50 to 52 rupees. Poor people notice, it hits them. So inflation is a regressive tax. It hurts poor people more than it hurts well-off people. Now, what is the connection with that, with what the Prime Minister's advice? See, before, every 2-3 months the RBI does a policy review. You see on the TV, you see newspapers that the RBI raised the rate, cut the rate or whatever. Now, before doing all that, the governor of RBI consults all the stakeholders. He consults banks, financial markets, financial institutions, the government, academics, economists. The RBI consults all the stakeholders before taking a decision. For example, in the first week of December, there's going to be an RBI review. As we speak today, I can imagine right now the governor consulting stakeholders on what to do. The RBI or the governor never consults the most important stakeholder. All this is being done to control inflation. The most important stakeholder is the ordinary people in the country. The RBI doesn't consult the ordinary people. RBI consults everyone else. So what the Prime Minister was telling me was exactly this, that don't forget the ordinary people. So that's the third lesson. Keep your ear close to the ground. I'll move on to the fourth lesson, which is don't miss the obvious. Keep your ear close to the ground. How many of you read Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes? A few of you, but Sherlock Holmes is, read Sherlock Holmes is good English, good novels, detective stories. You know, Sherlock Holmes was or is a fictional figure, is a detective. His assistant is Watson. Sherlock Holmes and Watson, they were investigating a crime, a murder, and in the process of investigation, they go outside London, and it becomes dark. So they pitch a tent and go to sleep, Watson and Sherlock Holmes. In the middle of the night, Sherlock Holmes gets up and he shakes Watson up. Watson, get up, get up. And Watson gets up, rubs his eyes and says, why do you wake me up? I was in deep sleep. He says, Watson, I want you to look up. What do you see? And Watson looks up and says, oh, it's wonderful. I see the clear blue sky. We live in London. There's fog all the time. I've never seen a clear sky. Thank you for waking me. Watson, what else do you see? So I see the stars. I see the moon. Watson, what else do you see? Oh, thank you for waking me up. I see God's pristine creation. Then Sherlock Holmes gets frustrated. He says, Watson, don't you see somebody stole our tent? So that's the obvious thing. You're missing the obvious. So the lesson I learned is don't miss the obvious. And I want to tell you a story because as I told you, I'm going to tell you stories. From every experience of mine, I'm going to tell you a story, which is that my first posting in the IAS was as sub-collector of Parvatipuram. Parvatipuram is now a district. At that time, it was a subdivision in Srikakulam district in the mid-1970s. And this is, before your parents' time. But if you go back, extremists are all in the news these days. Parvatipuram was at that time infested by extremist movement. The extremist movement, we call it Naxalite movement. Naxalite because it started in Naxalbari district of Naxalbari in Darjeeling district of West Bengal for about 5-6 years in the late 1960s. It hopped over Odisha and infested, or not infested, but became, it attacked the Parvatipuram tribal tracts. So for about 5-6 years before I went to Parvatipuram in 1970s, the agency tracts of Parvatipuram subdivision were ravaged by extremist movement. There were law and order problems, etc. But fortunately, by the time I went there in the mid-1970s, the extremist movement attacked, and our job at that time was to implement a massive program for tribal welfare. The question to the government at that time was, there's this, hundreds of tribal villages ravaged by extremist movement, vulnerable to extremist movement, so they were poor, they were left to be poor, so we must improve their livelihoods. So big money was being spent, and as sub-collector, as the frontline officer, it was my responsibility to implement all of them. So it went on for about 2 months, 3 months. Then when I got familiar with Parvatipuram subdivision, it occurred to me, why were the tribals of Parvatipuram subdivision actually vulnerable to extremist influence? Well, how come that it came from Naxalbari to the tribal tracts of Parvatipuram, hopped over parts of the country and came to hit Parvatipuram? The realization was that tribals had been historically exploited. The land was taken away by non-tribals. They borrowed money from non-tribals. They couldn't repay, so they became bonded labor. Their animals were taken away. So they were angry, agitated against the system. So they were vulnerable to extremist influence. Then when I studied further, it occurred to me that exploitation should not have been possible. I read the papers, I got familiar. How can tribals be exploited? Because there are laws, protective legislation it is called, on the statute book, which is there to protect tribals. Those laws come from 1848, 100 years before our independence, from colonial times, very progressive. What do those laws say? One law says that any transfer of land from a non-tribal to tribal is illegal. So if a non-tribal had taken away land from a tribal, that's illegal. What does that law say? That law says that any loan from a non-tribal to a tribal is illegal. So if any tribal is indebted to a non-tribal, that loan is gone, cancelled. So I said, look, there's such progressive legislation. In spite of that, how come tribals got exploited? So I said, okay, all my predecessors, they must have been busy with other things. Here I come, big hero, I will implement the protective legislation. So in the next 6 months, I went around from one tribal village to another, sat with them, talked to them about their welfare, their livelihoods, and talked to them about loans they took, lands they lost, and I explained to them there is all this legislation. So I told them, look, you put in a paper saying that I lost my land, I will restore the land to you. You put in a paper that I took a loan from this non-tribal, is forcing me to repay, I'll say I'll cancel your loan. Just put in your paper. And I also told them, if you don't want to write, I will have my staff write the petition and give them to me, and I'll cancel your loans, I'll restore your land to you. I was so excited by my own evangelism that I thought, thousands of petitions will come to me. In the event, nothing happened. I just got about 20 petitions. I said, what's happening? How come that I went and I told them, I explained to them, I told them that I'll give back their land, I'll cancel their loans, and nobody's coming to me? Then I realized that no tribal would ever complain against a non-tribal. Why? Because the tribal, non-tribal life was an intricate ecosystem. If the tribal's girl falls ill at 2 o'clock in the morning and she has to be taken to a doctor, who gives the money? The shocker. If they have to perform a wedding, do a funeral in the family, somebody falls ill, there's festival to celebrate. Who gives the money? The shaukar. So if they go and complain against the shaukar will ostracize not just the tribal but the entire village. So the entire village will be ostracized. Here I was not giving them an alternative. I was just telling them complain against the non-tribal. If they complain against the non-tribal, their life would be ruined. So I did not understand the obvious thing. The obvious thing was that I had to take care of their entire ecosystem, not just say put in petitions. That's the lesson I learned the hard way. I'll move on. I've got about 7 lessons just for those of you who are keeping track. Is it 4 or 5? 4 the better? Previous very on. Okay, number 5. Yeah. See, you cannot be too busy. This is very important for you. You cannot be too busy to do what is important to you. Now, my sons are grown up. I asked them, why don't you read books? No time. Why don't you exercise? No time. Why don't you have some hobbies? No time. If I ask you students, why don't you read books? No time. Why don't you play sports? No time. So what do you have time for? The lesson I learned is that if something is important to you, you cannot be too busy to do that. Again, let me tell you a story. When I was under training in Missouri, Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Are you listening to me, students at the back? Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. She came to talk to us like I'm talking to you. And she spoke to us for about half an hour. No, she said the usual things, entirely forgettable. That you are IAS officers, I depend on you. You know, government depends on IAS officers to deliver. You are the brightest of the country, etc. All that. Entirely forgettable. You wouldn't remember anything of that after 5 minutes. She spoke and sat down there. And after she spoke and sat down there, somebody like Dean Rajesh would come and give a vote of thanks, right? So one of our trainees came to give the vote of thanks. And he said, you know, what do people say in the vote of thanks? We thank the Prime Minister for taking time out of a busy schedule to come and talk to us. As soon as Mrs. Indira Gandhi heard that, she got up again, came back to the mic, she pushed aside Dean Rajesh Garu's counterpart, and she took the mic again. And she said, you know, whenever I go to functions or events like this, people say the same thing. I thank the Prime Minister for whatever, for taking time out of a busy schedule. She said, whenever people say that, I get irritated because coming and talking to people like you, addressing you is part of my job. It's not something extracurricular I'm doing. So when people thank me for doing what is my work, I get irritated. She also, you know, some backhanded compliment. She said, you're all IAS officers. I don't know how busy IAS officers are. I don't know what IAS officers do. But I want to tell you that she said, I went to call on an ailing uncle of mine who was at the civil service. I think she was talking about Mr. B.K. Nehru, who was her uncle, who was ailing at that time. She said, I went to see him because he was ailing. And when he saw me, he said, Beti, come here, sit down and, on her bedside. And he said, Beti, you've been the Prime Minister of the country for 7-8 years now, but I don't believe you're as busy today as I was when I was district magistrate or collector of a district. So she said, I don't know how busy, what it takes to be a collector, but I want to tell you one thing, that no matter how busy you are, if something is important to you, you will do it. And she said, as Prime Minister, I write a couple of letters. We used to write letters at that time. I write a couple of letters every week. I read a book, 2 books every month. I have a meal with friends. I see a movie. So if something is important to you, you will find time. If keeping fit, sports is important, find time for it. Reading is important, find time for it. I don't have the time is not an appropriate answer for anything that you need to do that's important to you. Let's pass this on. Next slide. 7. Yeah. So, the second last thing I want to say is character matters. Character matters. If you want to be a good human being, if you want to move on in life, if you want to move on in your career, character is important. Now, character and personality are two different things. All of us, as individuals, we have character, we have personality. And they're two different things, although we tend to conflate them. Next slide. Yeah. The attributes of personality are extrovertism, confidence, energy, enthusiasm, a sense of humor, a broad range of interests. Those are the attributes of personality. The attributes of character are honesty, truth, respect, loyalty, humility, courage of conviction. Just to give you an idea, personality is what you do when others are watching you. Character is what you do even when others are not watching you. That's the difference between character and personality. To be a good leader, to be a good human being, to be a good family man, family woman, family person, you need to have both character and personality. But unfortunately, we tend to emphasize personality, tend to not emphasize character. You know, our parents at home, our teachers in school, later on our superiors, our peers, there's always a focus on personality. There's no focus on character. But character is very, very important. I recently read a book, it's a book called Quiet. It's written, just one word, Quiet. It's written by a blind woman called Susan Kate, and she talks about this, personality and character. And this shift in emphasis from character to personality. If you want to join the civil service, it's called a personality test, But character is very important. And I'll tell you why character is important. Next slide. Yeah. This is a picture of Mahatma Gandhi's funeral. How many of you seen the movie Gandhi, Richard Attenborough? Only some of the older people, but all the youngsters, it came before you were born, but I would encourage you to see the movie, because Gandhi starts with this funeral procession of, the movie starts with this, and there is a voiceover. Next slide, please. This is what it says. I don't have it written here, but the voiceover says the object of this massive tribute died as he had always lived, a private man without wealth, without property, and without an office or a title. That's what they say about Gandhi. Next slide. You can read this for yourself.
I'll try to read that particular because it's not visible to the last sequence. Mahatma Gandhi's funeral procession from the movie Gandhi, which was directed by Richard Attenborough, 1982. Mahatma Gandhi was not a commander of great armies, nor a ruler of vast lands. He could boast of no scientific achievements, no artistic gift, and no profound scholarship. Yet, men and women, governments and dignitaries from all over the world have joined hands today to pay homage to this little brown man in the loincloth who led this country to freedom.
Well, that is what the movie starts with, a eulogy to Mahatma Gandhi. And if you see the movie, I want to tell you one scene from that movie Gandhi. Gandhi was arrested and brought before a court several times. There's one scene in the movie where Gandhi is brought to a magistrate's court, and there were about 7-8 people ordinary people. When Gandhi enters and put in the box, they get up and do namaste. Then there were 3-4 lawyers, they get up and do namaste to Mahatma Gandhi. Then the court staff, they get up. Then the police, they get up. And at this point of time, the only person seated was the magistrate. Everybody else got up in deference to Mahatma Gandhi, who was actually there as an arrested person, in deference to the Mahatma. And that magistrate is bewildered. He doesn't know whether he should stand up and defer to Mahatma Gandhi or keep seated because he's the magistrate. And you see that hesitation in his face, the magistrate's face. So he gets up, half gets up, with a stiff gesture, locks his eyes momentarily with Mahatma Gandhi and sits down. Arguably one of the most poignant scenes in the history of movies. And an epitome, a reminder of Mahatma Gandhi's character, that this man who was puny, who was brown, loincloth, arrested and brought as an accused person, the entire nation stand up to defer to him. The reason is Mahatma Gandhi had character. So character is very important. And the last thing I want to tell you is, next slide, yeah. Last thing I want to tell you is follow your dharma. You all understand this. Your parents tell you, your grandparents have told you, your teachers have told you. You read that in books, you read that in the Bhagavad Gita, Quran, or Bible, that you have to follow your dharma. Saying that you have to follow your dharma is easy. Determining what is your dharma is incredibly difficult. It's not easy, what is my dharma? And I want to show you a clip. Let's see that clip. Understand?
A runaway train is heading towards 5 workers on a railway line. There's no way of warning them. But you're standing near a lever that operates some points. Switch the points, and the train goes down a spur. Trouble is, there's another worker on that bit of track too. But it's 1 fatality instead of 5. Should you do that? Many people think the right thing to do would be to switch the points, to sacrifice 1 to save 5, since that produces the best outcome possible. Now imagine the train heading for the workers again. This time it can only be stopped by pushing a very large man off a bridge. His great bulk would stop the train, but he'd die. Should you do that? Most people say no. But why not? Both thought experiments are cases of sacrificing 1 to save 5. What the trolley problem examines is whether moral decisions are simply about outcomes or about the manner in which you achieve them. Some utilitarians argue that the 2 cases are not importantly different from each other. Both have similar consequences, and consequences are all that really matter. In each case, 1 person dies and 5 are saved. The best option in each harrowing situation. But lots of people say they would switch the points, but they wouldn't push the man off the bridge. Are they simply inconsistent, or are they onto something?
This is called the trolley problem, one of the most important questions in philosophy. Google that, the trolley problem, you'll read all about it. The purpose of this trolley problem is to say that it's very difficult to determine your dharma because dharma is defined in different ways, in different contexts. So I want to invoke the Mahabharata to talk to you about dharma. The Mahabharata, we think of that as an epic of a story of the triumph of good over evil. But that way of looking at Mahabharata is very simplistic. The Mahabharata is a great treatise on drama, on dharma. It is, every character in Mahabharata is conflicted by pursuing dharma. Every episode in the Mahabharata illustrates the difficulty of identifying what your dharma is and follow that. I want to give you some examples. All of you are familiar with Mahabharata. When Kunti, the mother of Pandavas, before the war starts, and the war is about to start, she goes to her Karna, her firstborn son, and tells him that, look, you're my eldest son, so I had abandoned you, I'm sorry, but now you come and defect to the Pandava side, fight on their behalf. If you win, you will become the emperor. And Karna was irritated, whatever, but he also says that, no, I can't do that. I have been, I've been an associate of Duryodhana, he brought me up. I can't ditch him now, I can't defect from him, that will be unfair, that's against my dharma. Dharma was very clear there, and to all of us that is very clear. It's difficult to do, tempting to defect, but at least what is dharma was very clear. Take another instance in the Mahabharata, when Draupadi was being disrobed in the open court, and the entire Kuru elders sit in silence. Bhishma, the eldest of the Kurus, he sits in silence. He was morally conflicted. Should he get up and stop the disrobing? Or should he, as a person loyal to the king, just sit down there? He was conflicted about what his dharma was. Later on, during the war, you know this story, that Yudhishthira, Dharmaraja, at one point of time says that Ashwatthama, the elephant, had died, right? He says Ashwatthama, the elephant, had died. The elephant, of course, is drowned out. Ashwatthama had died because that was important for them to get Dronacharya out. There was smug satisfaction in Yudhishthira's mind. He was an epitome of Dharma. He was Dharmaraja, of course. But there was smug satisfaction that I did not lie. But that was very thin when he actually lied. The intent to lie was there. There he did not follow Dharma. And as a consequence, Dharmaraja's chariot always floated 6 inches above ground because it was an epitome of Dharma. It actually sank 6 inches into the ground because he had flouted Dharma. And after the war, when the Pandavas won the war, there was no jubilation. There was no sense of triumph. There was remorse. There was tragedy. There was anger. There was sorrow. Not because the kith and kin had died, but because it was a victory obtained by deceit, cunning, guile. So there was a concern among the Pandavas that this is not a victory won by Dharma. So Dharma is very important. Follow your Dharma. So, all of us are accountable. When you join a career, as students, you will be accountable to your superiors. You will be accountable to your peers. You will be accountable to your subordinates, members of your team. As family persons, we are all accountable to our families, our parents, our spouses, our children. We are accountable to our children as well. We are accountable as citizens to the society, to the community, to the people around us. All that accountability you can dodge. One accountability you cannot dodge is accountability to your own conscience. That you cannot dodge. So even if you don't remember anything that I've spoken about over the last half an hour, 45 minutes, remember one thing, that ultimately you are accountable to your own conscience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request the audience, students in fact, and some of the faculty are requested to ask some questions. This is a Q&A session. Please wait. I think any questions from the students? Yeah, come and ask. Come in front.
Good morning, sir, and thank you for your valuable insights. I am very curious to ask what motivated you to choose economics after completing your MSc Physics in IIT Kanpur.
Pooja, thank you. For those of you who are not here, the question is, what made you study economics after you studied physics and got into the IAS? For those of you who are aspiring to be civil servants or writing the civil service exam like Chaudhary Garu and I had written, or my wife Urmila had written, for the civil service, any degree is okay. Any degrees, BCom, BA, BSc, engineering, medicine, even Ayurveda, any one degree from a recognized college is sufficient qualification for writing the IAS. And I studied physics, and then I got into the IAS. And after 3-4 years, I realized that I need to educate myself more. And then I said, what should I study? I could pursue physics, but if I want to continue in the civil service, studying physics is not the best or most optimal thing to do. So I studied economics. Brahma, you MBA final. Because you study MBA, you can't study everything. So you chose to study MBA, but one thing I want to tell you, it's a very important question. No, listen to me. When we joined careers 50 years ago, you became IRS officer or IAS officer or an engineer in the PWD or a professor. You had one career, and we continued. We never left jobs. But in your careers, you're all in your early 20s or, your careers are going to be different. You're not going to be one thing. You're not going to be a professor all your life. You're not going to be an entrepreneur all your life. You're not going to be an industrialist or an NGO all your life. People are going to change careers. The world of work is changing. Changing because of technology. Changing because of AI. So for you, it is much more important to study a lot of things than for us. You must keep, చాలా మంది పిల్లలు నన్ను అడుగుతూ ఉంటారు, కూర్చోమంటారు, ఏం చదవమంటారండి, ఏం చదవమంటారు, అంటే దేంట్లో స్పెషలైజ్ చేయమంటారు. Should I specialize in family business? I think it's too young to specialize. Don't specialize in anything when you're 20, 25 or 30. Keep your mind broad. Learn as many things as you can. Okay? Breadth is important. Depth comes afterwards. Okay? So read as much as possible. You're studying MBA, but that does not mean that you don't keep track of what's happening in artificial intelligence. That does not mean that you don't understand what's happening in climate change. That does not mean that you don't understand what's happening in biotechnology. Okay? So it's very important for students to keep your mind broad, expose yourselves to as much as possible. That's one advice I want to give in response to this question.
Yeah, what sir said is right. During our time, the opportunities were very limited. Probably we took to physics, I took to maths as a means to an end. But as we pursued, you developed interest elsewhere. You found that you are more interested either in, say, economics, public policy, etc. But then, please remember, whatever you learnt in physics, the training of the mind and the methodologies you learn, they never go waste. You may not be a physicist in the lab, but the training remains here. That's what is important.
That's why they say for the IAS, I appreciate what Chancellor Chaudhary Garu said. The reason a degree is the only qualification required for writing the civil service is that the degree trains your mind to think in a systematic way. It doesn't matter what you study. It is how you train your mind that is important.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I want to know what is your advice on advice to the youngsters regarding career choices. Regarding career choices, sir.
Career choices. I anticipated your question actually. Career choices. First thing, a lot of people ask me like this. Young woman has asked me, well, so what career should I choose? I'm very wary of answering that for fear that I will mislead them. Today, I don't know the world of work, what career options open to you. However, YouTube influencer YouTube influencer and telsa niku not tell. Okay? So YouTube influencer is a new job that's come up. So I don't know. So ila ammaila adiginapudu edi ammaiki chabutanu physicist type oni kana YouTube influencer kuda manchi career path naaku teliyadu kada. So I'm very hesitant to advise people. So keep your ears and eyes open. Learn as much as possible. I'm sure that all of you will do very well in your careers.
With sir's permission, I am adding one sentence. You please, revise sir's lesson number 2. Where is your passion? You do that.
Good morning, sir. I'm Tejashwari, MBA final year. Sir, sir, Vizag, sir.
Vizag నుంచి ఇక్కడ చదువుతున్నావా? చెప్పు very nice.
Sir, which assignment in your career you like the most and why you prefer it?
Thank you. Tejashwini, I said that I've been lots of things in my career in the IAS. One of the nice things about the IAS is that while you have the security of a job, it lets you do a lot of other things. Like I told you, I was sub-collector Parvatipuram, I was collector Khammam, I did attic bottling, I did industrial promotion, Rajay Gariki Telsu. I've known him for 45 years. When he started in industry, I was there in APIDC and APSFC. And so I did a lot of things. And my most fulfilling career, as I said, was that officer on special duty direct bottling. I did not enjoy it in real time. But when I look back on my entire career, that was very enjoyable, very fulfilling. Lots of other things. I was finance secretary of the government of Andhra Pradesh. I really enjoyed that job. Although it was a difficult situation, I used to tell our chief minister, who is still the chief minister today, I used to tell him, sir, I'm your finance secretary. I'm becoming an expert not in financial management but in bankruptcy management. Okay? So I enjoyed that job. It was a very challenging job. But thank you very much. I'm happy that lots of girls are asking questions.
Hi sir, myself Ramesh sir. Ramesh sir.
Kamesh.
Ramesh. So question only sir.
Where are you from?
So I'm from NK Party sir.
Huh?
NK Party. Yes sir. Vijayawada. Yes sir. So my question was, what is the most important to a student sir? Practical knowledge or theoretical knowledge? But most of the colleges and academic are learning theoretical knowledge. They are not supposed to learn practical knowledge. What is the most important to a student in your perspective?
Ramesh, good question. But I'm not an academic administrator, but both theory and practice are important. You should have a blend of theory and practice. Sometimes theory gets ahead of practice, sometimes practice gets ahead of theory. One of the problems, one of the problems of our engineers is that they pass out of engineering colleges, they can't identify a lathe machine. Okay? So it's very important that you have practical knowledge, but you also should know the theory, whether you're a doctor, engineer, or a professor, or an IAS officer, or anything else. You know, both theory and practice are important. The most important thing is to blend theory with practice.
Sir,
Question received from the audience, sir. One. SK. Auction Jameel, Senior Inter CAC, PV Siddhartha College of Arts and Science. To measure the extent of access usage and the quality of financial services across the country, the RBI launched a specific tool in 2021. What is the index of it, sir? This is the question, and I got it from a student.
What is the question? What is the index of what?
To measure the extent of access usage and the quality of financial services across the country, the RBI launched a specific tool in 2021.
One of the rules of this session is you should not ask me difficult questions. Questions to which I have no answers. You know, I left the Reserve Bank in 2013, this is something in 2021, but from the question I noticed that it is an index to measure the depth of financial inclusion. Now you have this UPI payments, no? The UPI payments that we do is very unique in the world. You know, we keep criticizing our country, but I'm proud of some of the things that happen in this country. The UPI is one of them. I went to Hong Kong last year. In Hong Kong, you still have to pay cash. Okay? Unless you have a Hong Kong credit card or a debit card, you can't pay by debit card or credit card. You have to pay cash. That's because of China, you know. But even if you go to the US, you cannot. You just don't have a UPI like that. You have to be. It's a closed system. Whereas India's UPI is an open system. No matter where you have your bank account, no matter where your money is, you can do UPI. So, and UPI is a magical thing. You know, we see this a woman selling coconuts on the pavement. Okay. And she's selling coconut, she's got a QR code, she gets paid. Manam ade chustam that I buy a coconut, I paid her the money on the QR code. That's what we see. But you know what's happening there? What we don't see behind that is that the bank, her bank, that coconut seller's bank, is assessing her business performance. How well that business is doing. Is she selling more coconuts at 11 a.m. or at 5 p.m. or at 9 p.m.? Is she varying the price from time to time? Is she selling more in the summer than in the winter? The bank is assessing that. And my bank is assessing this guy, does he buy coconut water, does he buy beer, or does he buy expensive clothes, or does he go on expensive holidays? So when next time I go for credit to my bank, they have a pattern, my spending pattern. So the UPI is a remarkable thing. In a country like ours, man చూసేదేంటి పే చేసేసిన అయిపోయింది. I bought a coconut, I paid her 5 rupees, go on. Or 40 rupees is coconut, right? So, but there's much more happening behind the scene, and that is the magic of this financial inclusion, and that is probably what RBI is trying to measure. The depth of financial inclusion. మనం ఏదో విజయవాడలోనూ హైదరాబాద్లో చూసినాము, అది చిన్న ఊళ్ళలో కూడా అవుతుందా లేదా అని వాళ్ళు చూడాలన్నమాట. That's the important thing.
Thank you, sir. And one more. A. Venkatesh Sarlu, MBA Business Analytics from PV Siddhartha College of Arts and Science. What mindset should young leaders develop to handle criticism?
Very good. Okay, again from my own experience, it's difficult to handle criticism, whether you're a civil servant, politician, industrialist like Raja Garu, or a professor, or whatever job you're doing, criticism is difficult to handle. Just, we're all made like that, we're all defensive. Anybody says anything, you want to defend yourself. But again, I can only give you advice that I find difficult to follow myself, that appreciate criticism. See if there is some truth in that. Don't be defensive all the time, and learn from that. That's the important thing. But I'll pass on to Chaudhary Garu also to give his wisdom on this.
This again I will relate back to such lessons. It is the personality versus the character issue. You need to develop that kind of a character that you are willing to be criticized and willing to look or introspect, so that you don't have to really react to it. You know, it's one of the things. Unfortunately, there are many goods, like sir mentioned about YouTube influencer. There are many people that you need to react. You don't have to react to everything. You don't have to, somebody calls a fool, you don't have to get up and say why you are not a fool. Because you will prove that you are a fool by the logic you give to say why you are not a fool. But you need to introspect whether that criticism is right criticism. If so, whether you can learn something from that. If it's not right criticism, you don't have to join issues unless you are in a court of law. So, criticism is good, it's welcome. Actually, particularly what they call constructive criticism is all the more welcome. But it all depends. For somebody, what is a constructive criticism? For a weak mind, it could be just a destructive criticism. A weak child, psychologically slightly imbalanced, when he gets little lower marks, if the father or mother says, why didn't you do as well as your neighbor, it may be an insult to him, and we know he may take to some extreme steps. Whereas another child may take it as an encouragement as to, my father is asking me to, be at par with him or excel him. That's the constructive way of criticism. So, but then one thing, as a recipient of criticism I mentioned, but the criticizer, he must know his limits of the language he uses. Today, if you see, even forget about social media, even in regular media, criticism has degraded to abuse. Criticism has degraded to abuse. That is what you and I should avoid.
In the last question, sir. Yes, Tejashwani, B Pharmacy, KV Sir Siddhartha College. A few words about the present Indian economy, sir.
Now, there cannot be few words about the present Indian economy. I told you about Dr. Manmohan Singh, no? Tejaswani, unnava kaleda.
Tejashwani, can you stand up?
Unnava, sadly. Dr. Manmohan Singh used to say that all one-word answers about India are wrong. Okay, India is such a complex country that anybody who says that this is the answer, or this is, you do this and everything will be okay, that is not true. India is such a complex country, complex economy, that any one-word answer is wrong. ఇప్పుడు చీఫ్ మినిస్టర్ గారి దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళి కానీ ఫైనాన్స్ సెక్రటరీ గారి దగ్గరికి కరప్షన్ ఆపేయండి సార్, దేశం అంతా బాగుపడిపోతుంది. ఓకే, అంతే ఆ కరప్షన్ ఆపేస్తే ఇంకా అయిపోతుంది అన్నమాట. అట్లా కాదు, దేర్ ఆర్ సో మెనీ థింగ్స్ టు బి డన్. మీరు హెల్త్ టు ఇంప్రూవ్ చేయండి సార్, అంతా బాగైపోతుంది. లేకపోతే మీరు పిల్లల స్కూల్ చూడండి, ఇంకేం పట్టించుకోకండి, పిల్లల స్కూల్ చూడండి, అంతా బాగైపోతుంది. You must do all of those, but to believe that there are one-word solutions or one solution to India's complex problems is difficult, and to describe India's economy in a few words is difficult, but our economy is doing well, and we are the fastest growing economy. We are the 5th largest economy, going on to the 4th, going on to the 3rd, all of you know that. But the responsibility of taking India forward and making us a better and more vibrant economy depends on all of you.
This is not a question. Actually, dharma was said that there is no equivalent word in any other language. So English translation, they say that dharma is righteousness, but it will not give the entire meaning. For that Mahabharata, they have given a story like thing. See, if you do anything, either a word or an act which hurts another person, you have to think whether the same thing occurs to me, I am a hurt means that is not dharma. So that is the explanation given in Mahabharata, so that a common people can easily know that. See, if I am not going to do anything for the other person, same thing happens to me. If I am getting hurt means you should not do it. Thank you.
Sir, good morning, sir. My name is Panindra and I am from PVP Siddhartha, first year MBA, sir. So, sir, my question is that our generation is a dynamic generation that completely evolves. So, my question is that how to stay constant in this evolution? Is expertise important or the passion is important, sir, to stay constant?
Thank you. Every generation thinks that it is the evolving generation, the changing generation. That's true of all time. When I was like you, Panindra Garani Peru,
yes, sir.
when I was like you, I also thought that ours was the most significant generation of all time. So, but your question is expertise and
passion, sir.
Both are important. How do you say that expertise alone will take you forward or passion alone will take you forward? But as I said, the important thing is wherever your expertise is, whatever you're doing with your expertise, do it with passion. Okay? That is important. You cannot say either or. You need both expertise and passion.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, paucity of time, can we write paucity of time? Please observe, please understand. Please understand. Yes.
Sir, good morning, sir. My name is Venkatesh Varlu, final year of MBA Business Analytics. According to you, what is the economical challenge India will be faced upcoming decades?
Okay, so that also is an important question, but again, I cannot answer in a few words. Important challenges for the country, for the world. There are lots of things happening around the world within our ecosystem, right? There's climate change, there's technology, there's deglobalization, geopolitical tensions, demographic transitions. So lots of things are going to happen. It's difficult to capture that in a few words or even a few sentences. In fact, if you look back 10 years ago, if in 2015 somebody asked me, can you tell us what 2025 would be like, I wouldn't have been able to say, right? Because whoever thought that AI would come into our lives in such a big way. So in 2025, it's difficult to say what 2035 is going to look like. The important thing is to be ready, future ready as this. Some universities actually, National University of Singapore, where I studied, where I went to as a visiting fellow, their motto is to make the students future ready. Future ready, okay? So you got to be future ready, whatever that future is. Thank you.
First interaction is from MC Das Garu.
Sir, I am Dr. MC Das, a professor and a management consultant. Sir, is dharma a means or an end? Rama Vigrahavan Dharma had to kill Vali from behind a tree. Dharmaraja had to tell a lie. Ashwatthama So is dharma just a means or an end?
Thank you, Professor Dasgaru. I have no simple answer to that. In fact, Siddhartha College must have a panel discussion on dharma. And what is dharma? Is it how easy is it to follow? It's important to have. Even students should understand that. But as I said, it's difficult to identify what your dharma is, and it's even more difficult to follow your dharma. but making the effort is very important, every step of the way. Thank you for your comment.
So now we are going for the next session. Felicitation to the invitees.
Yeah.
వీడు వదలదు కాబట్టి నేను ఇక్కడ ఉంటాను. To tell you the truth, if at all I have a role here or a presence here, it's that one of our sons was a student of the Siddhartha school long back. It was a municipal commissioner. Otherwise, I have no right to be on this stage. Thank you very much. It's good to be back in Vijayawada after a long time.
Excuse me, sir. One of our student has painted SUBBARAO and Urmala SUBBARAO picture. He is Mr. Iswa.
As he initially feared that it will end in 10 to 15 minutes, or as it ended happily with a 35 minutes successful thing. One thing follows at the end of the interview is that one has to sit in that PS room and write out a resume kind of a thing as to, according to you, what transpired. And that, I understand, carries some marks and also an impression of what is your own impression of how you did the interview. Okay, with that prelude, you all will continue to sit here after the chief guest is thanked adequately and he leaves. And you have 15 minutes time. The doors will be closed, no student will go out. And students will write, each one of you, as to what you learned or what is your perception of today's lecture. What do you take out of this room? Are you one penny or a gram better than what you entered this room? So, the best of the resumes carry on behalf of the academy, I am promising 3 best resumes will carry 5,000 rupees prize each. One of them I am sponsoring.
Vote of thanks by Principal Dr. Maker Ramesh, alumnus of this college, PV Siddhartha College of Arts and Science.
Namaste. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr.DUVVURI SUBBARAO garu, respected President of today's meeting, Sri K.V. Chaudhary garu, distinguished members of the management, eminent personalities from Vijayawada, respected faculty members, and the principals of other institutions, staff members from the other institutions, my dear students. So, it's my honor to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. First and foremost, we express our deepest gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. DUVVURI SUBBARAO garu, former Governor of Reserve Bank of India, for delivering such an enlightening and thought-provoking address. Sir, you have learnt a lot from your hardships, but we are also facing so many hardships in our life, but we are not learning lessons from this. So we have to change it positively, or we have to think it positively to change our lives in the life learning also. That's a very big. And your insights to India's economic landscape, policy reforms, and challenges and opportunities before our nation have truly enriched all of us. Your presence here today has been a great privilege. Dr. DUVVURI SUBBARAO garu tenure is widely recognized for stability, integrity, and strong crisis management. He guided the Indian economy through one of the toughest global financial periods. His period is one of the most challenging as it coincided with the global financial crisis of 2008. I take this opportunity to convey our sincere thanks to President of today's meeting, Sri K.V. Chaudhary garu, former Chief Vigilance Commissioner, former Chairman of the CBTT, and President Vice Chancellor of Siddhartha Academy of Higher Education for his Chancellor of the Siddhartha Academy of Higher Education for his gracious presence, constant encouragement, and invaluable guidance. Sir, we are fortunate to have your leadership and support for our academic initiatives. We are grateful to the management of Siddhartha Academy for their unwavering support for enabling us to organize such impactful programs such as Golden Jubilee celebrations. My heartfelt thanks to the distinguished invitees and notable members of the Vijayawada who have honored us with their presence and added dignity to this gathering. A special word of appreciation to the press and media representatives for covering this event and helping us reach a wider audience. I also acknowledge the efforts of the faculty members, teaching staff, and student volunteers whose meticulous coordination ensured smooth conduct of today's program. Lastly, I thank all the participants and attendees for being with us and making this event truly meaningful. Once again, we express our profound gratitude to Dr. SUBBARAO garu and Sri K.V. Chaudhary garu and to everyone, and also the Madam Urmila garu, and also to every one of you present here. Your gracious presence has made us this Golden Jubilee lecture truly memorable. Thank you one and all. Thank you, sir. I read actually in the morning about one quote which aptly suits Sri SUBBARAO regarding RBI. According to him, RBI is not economics. Central banks are for communication, trust, and judgments. I think all his lessons he learned through professional experience he shared with the young audience here. That itself is, as I said in the beginning, what you achieved is not that important. What you become in the process is more important. So we are truly blessed to listen to your speech today, and definitely, as Chaudhary Garu requested, we request all the students sitting in this hall, spend some time, reflect on what you have learned and prepare a note, and you will be sitting in the same hall after national anthem, but don't go out. The guests can leave, but the students from different colleges must stay in the hall itself, be disciplined, try to take pen and notebook, reflect. Reflection is more important, that is a process. With this, I request everybody to stand up for the national anthem.